The Accenture Innovation Conference proudly presents William Mzimba, Chief Executive, South Africa, and Chairman, Sub-Saharan Africa, Accenture. It's time to start leading in the new.
MP, wonansi mpieza, ubani benga chinja mabubesi. MP.
Just about to start doing my Zulu thing with this IMPI introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second Accenture Innovation Conference. I would like to say our third Innovation Index. And we are so honored to have you here today at this wonderful venue in Johannesburg, and beautiful weather indeed. We are so blessed, aren't we? I would like to say, first and foremost, the honor is because today we have our clients and our partners and people that work with us in the extended ecosystem that we operate in. And what is so important is that this innovation conference today takes place at the time when I believe we most need it as a country. I need not elaborate on why, because I think we all are familiar about the need for innovation. Economic growth is low. Our prospects as a country in terms of our standing in the African continent are being challenged. We have a lot more other things that potentially are going to disrupt the fundamental basis of who we are as a nation. And to get ourselves out of this quagmire and to bootstrap ourselves, we as Accenture believe that innovation is at the heart of helping us to do that. We have an exciting lineup today, people who live in the innovation ecosystem, people who are steeped in ideas of how innovation has been the fundamental tenet of their existence in terms of businesses, and how they themselves are operating in a very disruptive world that is positioning them to be market leaders. You will hear today from J.B. Struble, CTO of Tesla. You would also hear from someone I follow quite a lot, Salim Ismail, who is a director at Singularity University, a partner of Accenture, and who has written about organizations that can become what they call exponential organization in this digital economy. Why are we doing an innovation index and a conference? We wanted to create an authoritative benchmark around innovation. We wanted to make sure that it was easy for people in this country to understand companies that are innovating versus those that aren't innovating. And we wanted to create this body of knowledge that will help people to be able to bridge the gap between the non-innovative state that they are in, moving to the innovative state that can help them to survive in this fourth industrial revolution. It's no longer about supply-side economics. It's more about demand-side economics. It's no longer about pipeline businesses where we define products and hope that because we've got economies of scale and we are developing the products much more cheaply, that we will be able to put a marketing force behind the product and that the customers will come. It isn't about that in the fourth industrial revolution. It's not about that proprietary IP that we have so well protected over many years that we believe we are going to get an edge against our competitors. Today, it's about collaboration. Today, it's about open innovation. It's about leveraging the ecosystem extensively so that you can play on the supply side of the economy. And the supply side of the economy, as you can very well imagine in the digital economy and the digital era, is driven by your customers. And as you've heard from Samke, she is one of those millennials that are demanding, either through those that you employ, through those that buy your product, consume your products, or through those that operate with you in your supply chain. So what have we found this year in terms of our innovation index. I wanted to share some highlights with you so that you can begin to understand where we are. We've seen an upward trend from last year. It is not encouraging because the upward trend we are seeing is only about a 4% percentage point increase from last year in terms of our index. So we are at about 50% in terms of the measure of innovation in the country based on those companies that we have surveyed and sampled. The analysis of our result tell us that 57% of the companies that we have surveyed scored less than 52% of the possible 100 points that we had, and therefore we classified them as innovation laggards. This is not very good for us, where we require innovation so greatly. Only about 29% of those companies we surveyed fell in the category of what we call innovation leaders, and only about 8% fell in the category of what we call innovation value champions. And I believe the space of innovation value champions is the space of those companies that are able to recognize a higher return on their innovation investment. And what we saw there, we saw about 42% return on the investment they have made around innovation. Now, it goes without saying that there is a lot of value that you can derive either as a small, medium enterprise or as an entrepreneur in the startup category or as a well-established organization. What we have seen is that there is a lot of investment that South African companies are putting aside towards innovation. What we have also seen, though the increase in the investment wasn't that much, moving from about 14.5 to about 17%, we saw that the return is quite encouraging. What are the key things that seem to be driving innovation? Culture, very important. The culture of innovation from the top is a very important ingredient that will drive innovation in a company. Goes without saying that if you are a startup or an entrepreneur that's about to start, you are innovative in the very beginning and you grow your enterprise and you inculcate that culture throughout the organization, then you are going to be seen as an innovative enterprise. What we have also seen in this digital era, we have seen that businesses are leveraging digital as an enabler for innovation. And they're leveraging the digital technologies to change their business models and to make sure that they can set up platforms for innovation. We have, at the beginning of the year, talked about the platform economy as part of our tech vision. And we believe that those companies that have established platforms or that are going to transform their businesses to become platform businesses are the businesses that are going to win against those businesses that are still operating in what we call pipeline-type businesses. We also have made a very crucial finding through this index research that we have just conducted. We have seen the power of ecosystem play, and we have seen that leveraging digital technologies, most of the companies that we classify as innovation leaders and innovation value masters are successful in becoming what we call innovators that have adopted what we so-call open innovation. I just want to reflect on three major dimensions of innovation that we have found that are driving the innovation maturity. One of the key themes that we found is around engagement. What do we mean by engagement? We are talking about, I already alluded to the fact that culture is an important aspect of innovation, and under the engagement dimension, here we are talking about in making sure that innovation involves your employees, the people that work for you and work within your organization. And we have seen a huge increase in the respondents that have worked with us this year in the Innovation Index, talking about their own employees beginning to believe that part and parcel of what they have to do on a day-to-day basis is being innovative. Now, this is a huge change from what we've seen in the past. What we have seen in pipeline businesses before is that we had a small division called R&D that is sitting somewhere in some corner, gets allocated some dollars, and works parallel to what the organization is doing on a day-to-day basis. Under the engagement dimension, what we have seen is that innovation is beginning to be integrated into the fabric of what the company is doing and driven by the people employed in there. And we believe this is a significant change in how we are going to move the dial around innovation. And we are seeing that innovation value champions are embedding innovation in their organization as cornerstone for their innovation strategy. And then we've also seen that their talent development strategy is exactly directed at acquiring new skills to be able to support innovation, and that they are beginning to record higher success rate. It goes without saying, those of you that are following Google, you can talk about the culture of innovation in Google. You will hear today about the culture of innovation at Tesla and many other organizations. And when you see the people that work with those organizations, you feel as though they're actually playing as they're working. So this is the kind that we need to begin to see in this environment. In fact, the Innovation Index research indicates that 95% of the innovation leaders are giving more control to their employees to ideate and to innovate, and they are offering strong incentives. They're offering strong incentives and opportunities for the employees to innovate. Now, that for me is a huge change from what we've seen before. The second key thing that we have seen is how they are leveraging our resources in the innovation ecosystem. And when we talk about resources, we are talking about financial, human, and the relationships that they have in their partner ecosystem. Now, this is very critical. It's very critical because we believe that in the platform economy, and we believe that in this digital era, which is brought about by all of these digital technologies that we have, is that ecosystem play is going to be the order of the day. The third dimension that we see is the role of digital. As you can see there, that there's a huge gap between what the innovation leaders are doing around professional development and incentives of their staff to what the innovation laggards are doing. And we have seen also a huge difference between how they create opportunities for their own employees on the basis of them being innovative. And we've seen that rewards do play a role, but it's not all about rewarding the person for the innovation. There's a lot more than just than that. I talk about resources. We have seen quite a huge increase in terms of how people are beginning to leverage the relationships that they have and how they are beginning to combine both capital and human and relationships into the ecosystem of innovation. And we've seen that 71% of the leaders allow innovative ideas not only to be generated from the inside, but from the outside, and therefore leveraging what we call the platform play. I want to talk a little bit more on digital, because we are so passionate about this topic, and we think that this digital economy ushers an opportunity for us as South Africans, and that we could use these technologies to leapfrog competitors. If you are a large established enterprise, we could use this to position ourselves as a major player in the world economics and dynamics, and we believe that through digital technologies, which we in Accenture define simply as what you could do around your customer interaction space, what you could do in terms of leveraging mobility, what you could do in terms of leveraging the data that you collect all the time, data and insights, what you could do specifically around issues of security, and what you could do around issues of cloud. Now, we talked about all these combinations of technologies that we simply classify as technologies that are ushering the new, which you could call the fourth industrial revolution. Now, we would like to make a very provocative statement around digital. We believe that everybody needs, or every enterprise needs to be inherently digital. Because if you're not, you are going to find it very difficult to operate in the environment where everything is beginning to be digital. The interface with your customer has become digital. The interface in your value chain has become digital. We believe that you will not be cost competitive. And we believe that your revenue streams will significantly be at risk if you don't become a digital enterprise. Now, there are two dimensions that we look at when we talk about digital. And we see those dimensions coming through very clearly out of this innovation index research that we have done. Now, let me just define it a little bit. So we talk about this as the evolution of the business to be able to use a combination of technology, information, and connectivity to be able to create new sources of customer value, or company value, or operational performance. That is how we define the digital era. And what we would like you to be able to do in this space is that we saw that 87% of South African companies are beginning to invest seriously in the digital space and are beginning to think about how they can evolve their digital models or businesses to adopt digital technologies. We know that the innovative value champions and leaders are using digital technologies extensively in their innovation value chain. If you just take a look at this graph, you will see that 80% of the innovation leaders are leveraging analytics as one of the digital technologies that I've spoken to you about. Now, in the digital world we are operating in today, every time we make an interaction with our customers, the customer is leaving data footprint for us. We can capitalize on that data footprint. However, as I said, if you are not a digital company or a digital enterprise, you are not able to capitalize on that digital footprint because it doesn't exist, which means you aren't capturing the data as you interact with the customer. So let's take, for an example, if you are an insurance provider and you become a digital insurer, at any interaction point, either it is a servicing point, or it is a data inquiry point, or is a claim point, you are collecting data if that interaction point is digital. What do you do with that data? You can then innovate based on that data because you can begin to improve either your interaction experiences with your customer, or you can begin to develop new products. And those products are a result of the feedback loop that you are getting in your interaction with customers. But you can't get there if you are inherently non-digital. This is why it's important for enterprises to consider seriously pivoting or rotating completely to become digital businesses. Now, through the innovation index, we are now beginning to measure your digital rotation index. And we can help you to understand how well rotated you are as an enterprise. How well have you adopted some of these digital technologies to set you up to be able to operate effectively in this digital economy. Now, we see that a lot of companies are using social media. We see that mobile devices are pervasive. They are the everyday thing that we have. In fact, today when I travel, I don't even carry my laptop. I do my emails, I read my documents, I review things, I approve things just on my mobile device. So there is a lot of power in the mobile devices that we carry today. But here is something that is very important. If you become inherently digital and you become what we call a cloud-first company, what is going to be happening is you're going to completely lower your operational cost. Your computational cost, which is something of huge importance in your ability to gather data, becomes something that you can outsource to people who have made huge investments in that space. So therefore, there is no need for you to think about the need for you to capture the data as a barrier for you to pivot or to rotate to digital. So cloud is here and it's real. And everything that we do today, even our mobile devices today, email is on the cloud. Our photos are in the cloud, right? People talk about security. Those cloud companies are actually more secure than I think we can ever imagine, and we can be able to secure our own companies. Digital technologies are being adopted by the innovation leaders, as you have seen on this graph, to support their business, their processes for innovation, and to help them to streamline operation. And we believe that that is one very important thing. To compete in this digital economy, you need to be able to do it at the lowest cost possible. Your customers can move easily. We talk about liquid workforce, and we talk about liquid expectations of our customers, which means if William can satisfy my needs better than, Ntombi can do, I switch. And the cost of switching, because we are now in this digital economy, are very low. And therefore, if your operating costs are still of a pipeline-type business, not a platform-type business, you're going to find it very difficult for you to capture the new revenue streams that are required to be captured. You're going to find it difficult to satisfy your customer need. So the digital environment really makes a strong customer focus a competitive advantage. And that is why I talk about we are no longer in the supply side, where build it, they will come. Now you are on the demand side. I have to build it based on my customers' needs and my customers' expectations. Now, the innovation leaders take this digital technology a step further. They leverage the efficiencies that are brought about this to be able to change completely their business models in such a way that it can give them the competitive edge that I've spoken about. And digital has become an integral part of their overall business and their overall innovation strategy. I want to leave you with just one thought. Sometimes when we talk about innovation, people think it is a hairy-fairy kind of a thing that is non-achievable, that is very difficult. I want to say that if you believe you are not in the category of innovation leaders or innovation value champions, you have an opportunity today to capitalize on making sure that you can adopt digital in the inside to help you to begin to make the transition. But innovation shouldn't be a complex and a very threatening dimension of our businesses. I remember having a conversation not long ago with some entrepreneurs and startups and well-established enterprises, and we're talking about how do we connect the innovation ecosystem and the entrepreneurial space in such a way that we can see significant growth in terms of startups and startups that are connecting with major enterprises. And I reflected on two things. I said, in this country, we are lucky that we have what we call enterprise development. Enterprise development offers us an opportunity to integrate these startups into our ecosystem and our value chains much more effectively. And these startups, inherently, they are innovative. And inherently, most of them are digital. They are digital natives. Now, if you are not yet a digital company and you can integrate these innovators and startups that are inherently digital, you can find a simpler way in which you can begin to pivot, or you can begin to rotate your enterprise into that. And the final provocative point that I made is that just imagine that instead of issuing requests for proposals, we can begin to issue requests for innovation. If we know that we are going to be power constrained in this country, instead of writing a 150-page spec document asking for people to build nuclear power plants, we can simply say, we need 9,600 megawatts of power. Can you innovate in how you can bring it to us without telling people that it has to be nuclear? You will be amazed. You will be amazed because you will see Tesla coming in with their power wall where we can now generate power through the sun and store it, and we can solve at a fraction of the cost of the trillion rands we have to spend on nuclear. Just as an example. We are facing a very, very damaging situation today. Fees must fall. Request for innovation from government could say, we have a deficit of 100 billion to fund free higher education. We are open for innovation. Anybody who can innovate on how we can solve this problem, there is a price. We don't specify and say we are requiring funding, a structuring of the funding. No, request for innovation. Therefore, if you are an enterprise that's existing today and you are facing the biggest challenge, you are being disrupted by all of these new startups that we are talking about, I promised myself to finish this conversation without saying Uber or Airbnb, and I think I'm doing very well. So if you are a big enterprise today and you feel that these young, innovative companies are threatening your existence today, issue a request for innovation. And what you will be doing is be connecting yourself with the startups that are out there innovating every day. Just yesterday, I was in a call with some guys from the US. They want to innovate around sustainable power in South Africa. And what they've developed a small portable incinerator, which you can deploy in a small community. Instead of us dumping our rubbish and having pick it up, come and pick the rubbish to a dump area, we can take the power ourselves in our dustbin, empty it into this thing, and then power comes out the other side. Request for innovation. We can solve our power problems. Request for innovation. You can solve your inherently most challenging problems as a company, because by so doing, you are integrating the entire value chain of innovation. And by the way, here's the nicest thing. You don't do it at your cost. You are doing it at somebody else's cost. That's the power of open innovation, and that's the power of leveraging the entire ecosystem. At Accenture, we talk about our collective market cap. If you look at our stock price and blah, 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 maybe it's $70, $80 billion. But collectively, with our ecosystem, we are in excess of $1 trillion. There is no problem we can't solve because we leverage the entire ecosystem. We leverage the entire ecosystem of Google, of Apple, of IBM, of Microsoft, of SAP, and everybody else. And collectively, what they have already invested in terms of their own innovative ways of solving problems, we take that, we integrate it, and we solve your problems as our client. That is why, collectively, we are much more powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, have a blast.